When you think of your association's future, do these three things keep you up at night? Is the private sector clearly executing a content strategy that's more sophisticated from your own, drawing eyeballs away from your organization and distracting from your value proposition? When it comes to industry developments, are interviewees looking to people other than you for guidance and insights? And then finally, with your education and your events, are you struggling to expand the cast of characters that can contribute as subject matter experts? Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Association Amplified podcast, where we explore solutions to bridge the member value gap, the biggest threat to associations today. Today, I'm joined with Randell Mauricio. Super excited to have him here, CEO with Worker BTV, and a ton of wealth and knowledge in the association space. Welcome, Randell, to the podcast.
Thanks for having me, Marcus. Looking forward to this.
Of course. Today, we're all going to be talking about the link between relevance and recruitment in the association space, and really how those two are connected. You know, more and more associations are struggling to meet today's members' expectations, especially in that younger demographic. So we have to ask ourselves, like, why is this the case? You know, traditionally associations are known as places where it's really up to the member to utilize that opportunity and get the value from it. And I think it's no secret in our space that today's members really expect essentially bang for their buck. Wondering what your thoughts are on that.
And I would dare say this challenge, this pain point that you're describing will always be a pain point in an ever-changing market. And so, you know, we've long heard this challenge 10 years ago, 20 years ago, and we'll continue to hear about it 10, 20 years from now. But you're bang on, Marcus. You talk about the landscape and, you know, technology, the impact that's having on the marketplace for associations. They're expected to do more with less. And, you know, when going back how many years ago when the internet was a thing, and now social media and the impact of social media, my goodness, did it ever change? And I think, you know, just in our workings with associations, day in, day out, you hear from them the struggle that they're going through. Professionals who've been in this industry for 10, 20 plus years, some of them are strapped and thinking, how do I get around this? I've never done this before. How do I engage the next generation of members, especially in a time when baby boomers are probably going to be exiting in the next 5 to 10 years? And so they're just feeling at a loss, but so much intelligence in that workforce. And so, yeah, I mean, I feel like I'm rambling, but it is a problem that we're seeing every single day.
Yeah, absolutely. And where my mind goes with this is, why is it so hard with all the chatter out there about value proposition? What does Gen Z want? I really think of this problem actually in a simple way. And I think that is the right way to approach it. I don't think there's anything actually quite unique about the next generation of members.
No, I mean, we're all humans, and I believe it's a sell or be sold world. Mm-hmm. Right. And if you're not selling a product or solution or an offering, then you're consuming it. And what does every professional want? They want some sort of a value, right? Or value proposition. And if I'm not doing the selling, that means I want something from you. And what does every professional want? They want to learn more. They want to be informed more. They want to be inspired more. And you look at the value proposition of an association, that's your mandate. Despite whatever industry you belong to or whatever industry you serve, if you're not filling that gap, then you're not going to be seen as valuable to that member. And so enter content creation. To your point, Marcus, have humans changed? No. Look at Maslow's hierarchy of needs. That will always be a constant, a fixed structure, if you will. But what has changed is the environment. the expectations, how people learn, how people consume content, how people make buying decisions. They want content to help them make those decisions. And so I think I would say one of the challenges that I hear often with associations is, how do I make content? How do I produce content in a content first, digital content first world? I would dare say that's the change that association professionals are grappling with and trying to figure out, how do I get on board?
I love that. So let me play it back for everyone. It's, what I'm hearing from you, Randell, is that it's really about we're trying to serve in some way a market where the product that is required is information. And to put it another way, your value to the member is that you're going to help facilitate growth. Perhaps that's a cleaner way of doing it. Where we ended up at there is that you're speaking to content. I'm wondering what is there an obvious reason why we landed at speaking about that information sharing through the view of content creation? So I don't think that's obvious to everyone out there.
Yeah, sure. I can touch on that. And it boils down to habits. I think this happened gradually over 10, 15, 20 years. Technology's changed the way that we as humans conduct our day-to-day business or our buying and content consumption habits. If you go back, let's say 30 years ago, you wanted to find a realtor to sell your home. Mm-hmm. Where do you look? You look at a bus bench. And you see those ads, right? You still see them today. And I'm sure that was a lot more more effective then than it is today. But as a busy professional, as a busy human being, when you're driving your car, do you really pay attention to that bus bench ad? Probably not. But where can you repurpose that ad? Probably somewhere digital. So that's just one microcosm or one example of how our day-to-day lives have been impacted. Smartphones. Access to information, access to content is ready, is one click away, if you will, but it's right in our fingertips. It's right in our pocket, to be frank. And so associations, what they have to realize is their content and value proposition hasn't changed. The the core that they're trying to satisfy to the marketplace has not changed and will not change, because every industry, every professional needs someone in their corner to say, I'm going to advocate for you. I'm going to teach you how to do your job better. I'm going to inform you, inspire, and educate you so that you can take your career and your professional and your entire industry and community to that next level. I'll put it this way, Marcus. I belong to a couple membership-based groups. And if you look at associations are membership-based groups. The one that comes to mind is a wonderful organization called Collective 54. Collective 54, shout out to you. But Collective 54 is a membership-based group focused. It's a community for business owners and business leaders, people who are operating and owning professional service organizations. And the whole concept behind this membership-based group is we're going to help you start a business, grow your business, and scale your business. That's great. And as a consumer, as a buyer, as a member into this organization, I'm critiquing it from this lens. Is it giving me good content, something of value? In other words, if I'm a business leader, as you mentioned, I'm the CEO of my organization, how can I run the business more effectively? I'm going to go to this organization who's got my back. Take it a step further, more than just learning. Moments ago, I mentioned Maslow's hierarchy of needs. Just the humanistic element of belonging and associating with like-minded people and professionals, that's worth its weight in gold. Especially in business. This is a community made up of entrepreneurs, people who, for all intents and purposes, look around, assess their friends and family list and say, I think differently. And I can't always relate, or we can't always relate to each other because I'm wired differently. And so that's the type of persona and personality that I often bump into in this one membership group. But Marcus, there's hundreds, if not thousands of these groups out there, and business is just one. but it could be in other interests such as fishing, commercial real estate, or finance, or what have you. And so that's the value that associations can bring. And it's pretty clear to me the demand that is out there, because humans will always be humans. They will want to learn more and they will want to achieve more. Back to Maslow's hierarchy of needs.
Yeah, I love that, because I ended up in a place where I kind of frame it around that every industry is almost its own subculture, if you think about it, right? There's a personality, a persona. We're all drawn to our pursuit in life just based off our own personalities. And you get enough of these people together, all kind of doing something similar, there's that culture that revolves around it. You know, in the case of, you know, running a business, that takes a very specific type of person to be wired that way. Or say it's engineering, right? Are you more fascinated with people or things? You know, perhaps nursing on the other end of the spectrum of engineering. That's so true. But I wanted to go back to where we were with the information, right? Facilitating the information that you touched on, and technology. Because I think that's really, in a way, where associations, when they're thinking about how do I facilitate that value, how do I resonate with today's member, the reason why we land at content and why so many associations are looking at content strategy is, well, heck, it's just sure as heck simple to facilitate that value online. Like, it's not rocket science at the end of the day. And where do folks, forget about Gen Z for a moment, even just anywhere between the middle of their life to early in their career, you know, where are they spending a lot of their time? With their phone in hand, or with in front of a computer? How do people get their news and insights mostly? Is it through a paper? Sure. I mean, hey, I like sitting down and reading a good book as well. But in a way, that's almost like a niche hobby compared to ingesting information online. So for me, it's really about accessibility, right? If we limit our value proposition to a specific time and place, then we really kneecap ourselves in being able to engage with the member all year round.
Marcus, I'll love to answer that question, but full warning, I've been told that I love metaphors. I love analogies.
Well, you're in good company, buddy.
Okay, good. So here's one for you. Ask yourself this. When you woke up this morning, what was the first thing that you reached for?
Yeah, I mean, obviously, it's right? Unfortunately the phone, yeah.
Yeah, and there might be some folks out there listening to this and saying, well, that's not quite me. Guess what? You might get there in the near future. And if not you, the masses are already there and will get there. So back to your comment about accessibility, you're bang on. The content, the value of associations has and will never change. But are you actually getting your content out there in an easy to digest format? Are you there where your members or prospective members expect you to be? So that's why I share that analogy of when you wake up, what's the first thing you reach for? Anticipating your prospective members is also huge. Gen Zs, there's going to be how many other generations that follow Gen Z? What are their buying habits? What are their consumption habits? So you want to anticipate that, as Wayne Gretzky, because we are Canadians after all, as Wayne Gretzky says, anticipate where the puck is going. That's all I'm asking our association clients to do and our association partners to do. But back to content, we're talking largely about content. We're living in a day and age where content is table stakes. And when we have consultations and assessments with associations, there are still groups and membership groups out there who perhaps might be too dependent on their magazine and magazine only. Don't get me wrong. I've been in this business. I've been doing this business for quite a few years. And I remember 15 plus years ago, the buzz challenge, if you will, was, is print going to die? Mm-hmm. I disagree. Print's not going to die. There will always be a need for print. It's just that the need for it has changed. Yes, perhaps in some ways it's narrowed, but in other ways it's expanded. And so I look at digital content the exact same way. And pardon me, the content itself, as I mentioned earlier, is still valuable. In what format are you getting it out there? A couple of weeks ago, I was traveling to and from Europe, and when you're on an airplane and the only form of media you have in front of you is either the content you have on your phone or the magazine in front of you, you only have two options. How good does that magazine look? For me, if I'm fatigued looking at my phone or watching a movie, that magazine looks pretty good. So it also depends on the setting, right? Right time, right place in the format that is digestible. We do our assessments with our association partners. We go through that criteria. Are you putting out the right content? The association knows this. The association's lived, breathed this for decades. But are you putting it in the right formats, in the right places, in the right platforms? So you combine all this stuff and you realize, and I'm going to sound like a broken record, the content itself will never change. The advocacy that associations put out there as an offering will never be lost. It's just that, are you taking that content? Are you diverting your efforts in the right buckets, in the right places? Mm-hmm. Hope that made sense.
Yeah, absolutely. Where my mind goes with that is, as relevant as publications are, and I agree with you that they aren't going anywhere. For me, it's a single modality, and it's still in some ways restricted by time and place. And that is to have that publication in your hand and have, a nice moment in time where you could sit down with your magazine or your journal and comb through it. Are you going to take it on the train with you? Are you going to listen to it in your car? Can't listen to a magazine. So again, it's about increasing the accessibility.
Can I add a thought there?
Yeah,
a fleeting thought that I don't want to lose.
Yeah.
It just, as you mentioned magazines, it dawned on me that so many, if not all, the associations I've met over the years, they've observed what's happening in the market, observed the changes and shifts in technology and consumption and everything in this new social media age. And they sometimes overthink it. And they say, how do I do something that I've never done before? But if you really break it down, there is no wild science here. It's not rocket science. Yeah. The core, the content, what you ought to be doing is probably right under your nose. Your magazine is a really good starting place. There is a team, whether you employ them or you outsource it or whatever, maybe you have a publishing partner. There's a team dedicated to your association who's already doing the legwork. Perhaps they're already doing surveys of your membership, collecting that valuable data, understanding what's trending right now, what topics are hot. That exists. Your conference, you're paying thousands, if not hundreds, if not millions of dollars to a team or a group who is curating content for your conference. It's not rocket science. You don't have to reinvent the wheel. Just look to your conference. Those topics, the titles of your keynote presentations, that probably is a good starting point to take that content, either repurpose it if you record that content, or just run with the topic itself and set aside a budget to do a blog, a video, a podcast just like this, and so on and so forth. So long story short, it's there. You have the people, you already have the resources deployed, and hey, here's a tip I always give. Talk to your board. Your board are people, are stakeholders in your industry. They know what's going on, and they can that's ready access to the content that could fuel your content marketing engine.
Yeah, there's great points. It's funny when the folks that we work with, when they get started with content strategy, they're often thinking, okay, well, what are we going to do? It's like any company going, well, what do we want to say? Well, it's like, well, you already know that. It just because we're shifting our view to online content doesn't change what's of value to the member, right? And it's funny when you get really people talking about, well, what do your members really respond to? Like, what was popular at the event, right? Or what are any of the publications that you're currently using that are a good resource to your members? Suddenly, everyone gets really opinionated, and about what is it that the members are really enjoying too. That's an excellent jumping off point to really get started in all of this. But I want to bring it back to the initial topic where we're out of relevance. I'll say this is that we all have to take note that at this point in time, in all of human history, there's been more access to information, more ease of access to information at any other point in human history. So if we go back to the member and relevance and our value proposition to them, I think honestly the best way to frame this is, well, if we live in this timeline, right, where people have the ability to self-serve a lot of information on their own and get that insight, then what does it become of the associations? What is their incentive to compete with that, right? What is the place? What is the value proposition that can compete with a prospective member that can like, let's be honest, between all the different platforms out there. I mean, you got a platform for networking and community. You got a platform to find subject matter experts. So then what becomes the role of the association, and how should they approach in terms of competing for that relevance online?
Two thoughts come to mind. I'll start with the grim.
Yeah.
Before I go into being future focused. Number one is there's a new norm out there, and content is king. And many of us have heard that, but if you're not at least dabbling in content with the plans to grow your content marketing and your ability to push content out there, I really think you're going to struggle in years to come. That is the new norm. That is the new expectation. And so, yes, right now, stat quo, you're maintaining and satisfying your existing baby boomer membership. But if your target is Gen Zs and beyond, you have to get with the program. That's number one. Incentive number two is really growth. The membership groups that I belong to, I mentioned Collective 54, but I have other membership groups that I belong to. There's one that's an inventor membership. There's one that's for e-commerce. I join those groups so that I can learn how to grow and innovate. And what these membership groups offer me is a single place, a central place to access all the content, resources, information, and connections that I need so that I can fulfill my dreams and whatever I want to achieve. If I want to sell more, if I want to do more, if I want to be more, I know exactly where to go. So it's all about being an authoritative source for that information. If an association is effective in adopting, and then generating a system and a framework for this content to self-manifest, then you've effectively created a pipeline for content marketing. And again, it's no secret. Identify the topics that are relevant to your members, work backwards to identify who could speak to those topics effectively and efficiently and productively, interview them, film them, engage in podcasts just like this, and there's your content. That is the content that your members, existing and prospective members, want access to. It's really that simple. Work backwards from the problems that are in your industry and solve it. And that's a good way to deliver member value.
So play that back is that ultimately, if you go through the member's perspective, it shouldn't be that shocking that prospective members are in fact actually probably more than happy to pay for a shortcut to authoritative information. And I hear it from young people is that there's no shortage of skill sets to find information online. But what's missing is there's that authoritative voice, that trusted source. That's what people are wanting more and more these days. And what better position does an association have, right? Like associations are positioned perfectly to be that beacon of light to prospective members. They have the lineage, if you will, a current well of subject matter experts and often great history in their space, and of course the greater community, to be able to really utilize and position themselves as an authoritative, trusted source for information. So I think there's no shortage of opportunity to give exactly what today's prospective members want from them.
From an ROI perspective too. Hopefully I didn't cut you off.
No, please.
From an ROI perspective as well. I mean, you're gonna put out this content anyway. Maybe it's through your magazine, maybe it's through your conference. The content needs to be realized anyhow. You may as well jump on the bandwagon and capture that content and then dole it out or repurpose it in all of the media platforms that exist under the sun today. So you're going to do it anyway. But beyond that, from an ROI perspective, that content out in the ether is in essence a sales force for your organization. I think, in my dialogue over many years with association professionals, especially those who have been within the association industry for decades now, they're sitting there thinking, how do I do this? When really, you should just treat it no different than any other business. Yes, it's a nonprofit, but the best practices of how to run an organization are evergreen. It's putting together an MVP. It's putting together a strategy, putting together a test, piloting it, refining it, collecting data, and when all systems and all what am I trying to say here? All cylinders are firing the same way and rowing the boat in the same direction. Then you've got something that's worth pouring some gasoline on, right? And I know that's very vague, but I do believe that in my interactions with association professionals, sometimes we're overcomplicating it. Yeah, it's out there.
Yeah. I think often in the association space, we are definitely overcomplicating things, and in my view, it's just really being accepting that member centric, right? Like even expressing emotional intelligence, being empathetic to the member will give you a straight line to what it is that you need. And if I could put on my marketing hat for a second here, in terms of like where to get started, it'd be simple as, well, most marketers understand what pillar topics are. Hey folks, like that's the place to get started. And if you're not a marketing person, let me break that down, is think of bullet points. You got to create 5 to 10 bullet points. And those 5 to 10 bullet points are going to represent the core topics that is the continuity between all the segmentation inside of your association.
It makes me think of the comment I shared earlier about the value and access that you have to your board members. I remember that if I were to dig back to my history and working with association professionals, I was working with one client specifically who just said, I don't know where to start. And so our takeaway, our action that I had recommended is, why don't you just go to your board members? Could be 1, could be 5, could be 3, whatever. Go to your board members and just ask them to do this exercise. List the top 5 most relevant trends or challenges that you're experiencing in your industry today. Mm-hmm. And guess what? Within a day, those board members came back so easily, and they could just rifle off those topics because they live these challenges every single day. And so just to embody the comment of, are we overthinking it? Yeah. It's right under your nose.
I wanted to end with the topic in continuing with the theme of relevance, about how actually the private sector is becoming more and more relevant as in some ways, a competitor, in a lot of ways, a competitor to what an association can be for the prospective member. There's more and more private sector organizations, in my view, are actually competing dollar for dollar with the nonprofit space of association.
Absolutely, because let me put it bluntly. The membership model is a business model. It's not exclusive to associations.
So true.
Right? If I'm Facebook, I've already adopted and implemented and put out the membership model eons ago. And I may have called it groups on Facebook, right? And so you look at that one functionality on social media platforms, the ability to create a group, name it, add a description for the type of members you want to include in this group, that's direct competition. Is it as flashy? Is it as resourceful? Is it as rich and robust as an association as we've known it for decades? Absolutely not. But it is a competitor, and I see it around us every single day. And if you, as an association professional, haven't woken up to that idea, I think you really ought to, because there are business models out there, private, to your point, who are making for-profit dollars, but using platforms that are available, and including social media, but also not including social media, and they're leading with technology first to foster an environment where people can come together and share with one another in a peer-to-peer exchange about topics that interest them or shared goals. And that's happening right now.
Yeah, well said. I'll give one example that comes to mind. We were talking to folks very recently. They occupy a very intellectual space, fairly niche down. I would say it was very academic, the space that they worked in. And as we were speaking with them and understanding a little bit more about their organization, it came up pretty quickly that there is more than one for-profit organization out there that was far out competing them in content. And it was affecting their business development. It was affecting their recruitment. It was affecting their events directly. And the organization that was competing with them, ultimately their end goal was to have people attend their events. Yeah. But look at that. We have a for-profit events company that is putting on a niche event for a specific sector, and they're using content to get the eyeballs. They're facilitating information. They're putting out stuff out there that's easy to find, easy to act on. And the end result is that they're creating a pipeline for people. Hey, they want to show up to the event. And in some ways, this isn't too different than what associations need to grow into more and more. Else you'll wake up one day and then you realize that a for-profit, ate your lunch. And why is because instead of sitting on subject matter experts or sitting on those examples of what is valuable in your industry, they take action and they put it out in the world for people to consume.
Yep, you're bang on. And the solution to build off of this is really that simple. You have to do something, right? And as I mentioned earlier, you just got to treat it like a business, even though you may be a nonprofit. Start with the SWOT, strengths, weaknesses. What are your opportunities and threats? Because the saturation's there. The market is saturated. There's going to be fierce competition out there. So figure out that one thing or multiple things that enable you to stand out and double down.
Fantastic. Before we get out of here, do you have any final thoughts that you would want to share with anyone out there on this topic?
I would say really pay attention to what's going on around you and in the world right now. Because ultimately, even though the association marketplace and the association industry is just one sector, you're pulling members in from a global pool of people. And so how are people expecting to interact with organizations today? How are people expecting to interact with content? How do they want to access it? And if your day-to-day operations haven't adapted to that new norm, then I think you're probably missing the boat. So there's something out there. Treat your nonprofit just like a business and start uncovering the solutions. And ultimately, don't be afraid to try, because unless you try, you will not find out what actually is sticky to your prospective members.
Love it. Amazing. Well, thanks, Randell. Great conversation as always. And thanks to everyone for showing up and listening to the podcast. All right, everyone, thanks for tuning in. That's our show. If you want to learn more about how to amplify your association's relevance and growth, go to workerbee.tv, and there you can gather more insights on how to bridge the member value gap. Thank you.